What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated, unified, WBC, IBF, welterweight, world champion, superstar boxer, Errol the True Spence Jr. Didn't take too kind to the recent comments made by two-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Showtime Shawn Porter, who's recently stated that his trainer, meaning Errol Spence's trainer, Derrick James, who was trainer of the year and has two unified world champions currently, right now, simultaneously running in the sport of boxing. That's Jermell Charlo, junior middleweight, unified, WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO, Ring Magazine, world champion, superstar boxer, and of course, Errol the True Spence Jr. With that said, Shawn Porter was asked, is Derrick James the best trainer in the sport of boxing currently right now? And Shawn Porter stated that, no. And then the guy that asked him said, well, what do you think? Kenny Porter's the best? He said, no, my father's not the best trainer either. He says, but when it comes to Derrick James, when it comes to Derrick James, he says that Derrick James is he called it the typical Bill Belichick, Tom Brady situation, or he called it the Phil Jackson effect, where you had so much talent, the talent pretty much carries the coaching, right? So in this case, the trainer. So he's saying that Errol Spence is such a blue chip prospect, a can't miss prospect, that he was going to be good either which way, right? So it didn't matter. It didn't truly matter who trained Errol Spence. Errol Spence was going to be great, right? And he said when it comes to Jermell Charlo is just simply not fighting the best competition out there, right? So he's unifying the titles, he's unifying division, but he's not fighting the best at junior middleweight. And he said that he has to prove himself against Erislandy Lara. Once he beats and fights Erislandy Lara, then that's a whole different story. And he likened his chances to go up to junior middleweight, 154 pounds, and challenge Jermell Charlo. He said, I'll be much stronger. I'll be much tougher at 154 pounds, right? So he likened his style against Jermell Charlo. So he's saying that, Jermell Charlo, just needs to fight the best. He's not fighting the biggest and the best opposition out there. I beg to differ, because Jermell Charlo is beating the man who beat the man who beat the man, right? And that's Jason Rosario. We know that Swift Jarrett Hurd beat Erislandy Lara. Then Julian J. Rock Williams beat Jarrett Hurd. Then Jason Rosario beat Julian J. Rock Williams. And then Jermell Charlo beat Jason Rosario, right? So he beat the man who beat the man who beat the man, right? So Erislandy Lara lost a few fights back. He definitely hasn't looked the same. He's an older fighter at this point in time. He's definitely still skillful, very difficult, but he's older at this point in time. He definitely don't look the same. And so Shawn Porter, was stating that Derrick James is pretty much overrated, right? By citing that he's the Bill Belichick effect. You got Tom Brady, it makes you look much better than what you are. You got Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. If you Phil Jackson and Shaquille O'Neal, makes you look much better than you truly are, right? So he said that it's take him a couple of days, maybe a week or so, to sleep on it and think about it. But he's one thing that he said was, his father, trainer, manager, and father, Kenny Porter, wasn't the best trainer either, which is interestingly, because if you're a professional athlete and you don't think you're in the best hands, then you would want to make a change, right? So with that said, maybe he just feels like Kenny Porter is the best fit for him, but not the best trainer in the sport of boxing, right? But Errol Spence Jr. said, he responded back by saying, really? Shaking hand emoji and a laughing emoji, right? And by that, he mean, okay, see you soon, right? Because we know Shawn Porter is Errol Spence Jr. Well, he's teetering on being his mandatory challenger after Errol Spence gets past his highly anticipated December 5th showdown against now two-time, two-division world champion, former junior welterweight unified world champion, and former WBC welterweight world champion Danny Swift Garcia in Dallas, Texas, at the Cowboys Stadium, with fans allowed to attend. But with that said, he has to get past that opponent. Danny Garcia is ranked #1 in WBC. Shawn Porter is ranked #1 behind Danny Garcia. I know it's confusing to say the least, but you know, that's the way the dominoes are falling, right? So Shawn Porter will be his mandatory. Shawn Porter is also WBO 3-division world champion, superstar boxer Terrence Bud Crawford. He is his WBO #1 challenge mandatory as well. So Shawn Porter's in a great position, you know, to get an opportunity to fight for another world title. Like I said, he's a 2-time welterweight world champion. He held the IBF world title, and he beat, oddly enough, Danny Swift Garcia for the vacant WBC title that former unified WBC, WBA welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith "One-Time" Thurman held, but had to drop the WBC due to inactivity. Then he lost his WBA title to 8-division world champion, legendary, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny "Pac-Man" Pacquiao. With that said, when he vacated the WBC, Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia fought for the vacant WBC title, in which Shawn Porter won that fight. Then Shawn Porter went to defend it against Yordenis Ugas. He got the decision over Yordenis Ugas. And then he fought Errol Spence Jr. in unification bout September 28th of 2019, in which he lost that fight. Errol Spence was victorious in that fight. So I know Errol Spence is looking at it from a standpoint, well, Derrick James and myself, we beat you, right? We unified. Jamel Charles unified. Derrick James is one of the best trainers in the sport of boxing currently right now, hands down, right? And so Errol Spence is like, really? You know, we know Shawn Porter is campaigning for a fight with Errol Spence. He wants a rematch. Immediately after their first fight, at the post-fight press conference, Shawn Porter was calling for Errol Spence to pretty much lay out a contract right then and there so he could get an immediate rematch, because they thought they were the victors in that fight against Errol Spence. Errol Spence dropped Shawn Porter in the 11th round, and then he clearly won the 12th round, so he won the championship rounds. So he separated himself. It was a close competitive fight, but Errol Spence clearly won the fight in the championship rounds. He dropped Shawn Porter. He clearly won the 12th round. He won the 10th round, in my opinion. So he won those championship rounds to separate himself. And he got the victory, I think rightfully so. But Shawn Porter, obviously a competitor, a world champion in his own right. You know, legend of sports. Shawn Porter might have the deepest resume in the sport of boxing. So Shawn Porter feels like, you know, he should have gotten the nod. So he wants the rematch. He wants to run it back. And, you know, this is a fight that a lot of the fans would, you know, peg. It's going to be exciting. Nobody knows how Errol Spence is going to return. There's so much intrigue and so much curiosity. After Errol Spence defeated Shawn Porter September 28th, just 12 short days later, October 10th of 2019, Errol Spence suffered a horrific car accident, and nobody knows how he's going to return. There was people even questioning if he would ever return to the sport. And now his ring return is December 5th, and there's going to be all eyes on deck to see how Errol Spence returns to the ring. So with that said, Errol Spence dominates Danny Garcia, which he plans to. As he said, that he's got a point to prove, a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove all the doubters that say that he won't be the same anymore. He wants to prove all of them wrong. So with that said, you know, Errol Spence is looking to face Manny Pacquiao in unification bout after he defeats, you know, Danny Garcia. And the biggest fight in the sport of boxing currently right now that's being talked about is Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Everybody wants to see that fight. Two undefeated, former undisputed junior welterweight world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion Terrence Crawford. Errol Spence is unified. If Errol Spence gets past and gets an opportunity to fight Manny Pacquiao for that WBA title, that's another unification. That's another belt, another big pay-per-view event for Errol Spence. It makes that fight with him and Terrence Crawford that much bigger, right? And so the fight everybody wants to see and call for is Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. But nonetheless, the fight between Errol Spence and Shawn Porter is action-packed. It was, you know, non-stop action from the opening bell. In-fighting, out-fighting. It was an action-packed classic fight. And so, you know, Shawn Porter wants the opportunity to rectify this situation. He's never gotten a rematch in any of the fights he lost. He lost to Kell Brook. He lost to, that's where he lost his IBF title. And then he lost to Keith Thurman. And then he lost to Errol Spence. But he never got the rematch with Keith Thurman that he was calling for. And all of his losses are very, very close fights. It was a very close fight with Kell Brook and Shawn Porter. It was a very close fight with Shawn Porter and Keith Thurman. But he didn't get a rematch. He didn't get an opportunity to rectify himself. He doesn't want to let the opportunity, as he's put himself in position to be the mandatory challenger for Errol Spence once again, he doesn't want to let that opportunity slip away. So he wants to rectify it, and a part of me feels like that's why he took the opportunity to downplay Derrick James. And Errol Spence is like, okay, well, we'll see. He put the handshake emoji, you know, like, okay, you know, gentleman's nod. Okay, we'll see. Say less, right? Say no more. That's what we say in New York, say less. But, you know, in other places, say no more, right? We'll see later on down the line. But Derrick James is definitely one of the best trainers, if not the best trainer currently in the sport of boxing. Now, there's a lot of legends. You got Ronnie Shields still training. He's a legend, Hall of Famer already. You have guys like, you know, Buddy McGirt, legend in the sport, trainer. You have Freddie Roach, already a Hall of Famer. He's still training. You know, so there's definitely legends out there that is definitely, you know, your opinion and your preference of what trainer you like. You got guys like Eddie Reynoso, you know, training Canelo Alvarez. He seems to be a great trainer. You have a lot of trainers out there, but to downplay Derrick James and just to say it's the talent that gets him through opposed to his game plan. Like I said, Jermell Charlo was a boxer, sweet science. He was the boxer. His identical twin brother, Jamal, was seen as the power puncher. Jermell Charlo got with Derrick James and did his total approach to the sport, has done a 360. So how could you say it's not his game plan? How could you say it's just his talent? You can't say that. And to say that Jermell Charlo is not fighting the best is absolutely absurd in its own right. So let's see if we're going to see Errol Spence and Shawn Porter somewhere down the line. Storylines getting bigger and bigger every day. Going to be action-packed. But drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hey, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.